The applause rose as Carrie Underwood stepped onto the set of The View, her presence calm and polished, the kind of composure earned from years of standing under bright lights. She waved to the audience, exchanged warm greetings with the hosts, and took her seat with an easy smile. For the first few minutes, the atmosphere felt light and familiar. Carrie laughed softly when Whoopi Goldberg joked about early call times, and she spoke openly about balancing touring with family life, her voice relaxed, thoughtful, and unguarded. She talked about her new album with genuine enthusiasm, explaining how songwriting had become a form of reflection for her, a place where she processed joy, doubt, gratitude, and discipline. The audience responded warmly, applauding when she described how music helped her connect with people from vastly different backgrounds. Carrie emphasized that she saw music as a bridge, something that could bring people together even when they disagreed on everything else. Joy Behar listened closely, occasionally nodding, occasionally smirking in her familiar, skeptical way. When the discussion turned toward the influence celebrities held, Joy leaned forward slightly, her tone shifting from conversational to probing. She remarked that artists with massive platforms had a unique responsibility in times of social and political division, suggesting that staying silent could sometimes be as powerful as speaking out. Carrie's smile softened but didn't disappear. She responded carefully, choosing her words with the same precision she used in interviews for years. She said she believed deeply in kindness and empathy, but she didn't feel called to comment publicly on every issue. Her role, she explained, was to create music that resonated emotionally, not to serve as a political spokesperson. Joy raised an eyebrow. But silence is a statement too, isn't it? She asked. The question hung in the air. Carrie shifted slightly in her chair, her posture still composed but more alert now. She replied that choosing when and how to speak didn't mean having nothing to say. It meant understanding where her voice was most authentic and effective. The audience murmured, some nodding in agreement. Joy pressed further, suggesting that remaining neutral was a privilege many people didn't have. When you have millions listening, Joy said, opting out can look like playing it safe. Carrie inhaled slowly, her expression thoughtful rather than defensive. She said she didn't see it as opting out, but as opting into what she knew best. She explained that her fans came from all walks of life, and she felt a responsibility not to turn her art into something divisive. Music, for her, was about connection, not confrontation. Joy scoffed lightly. That sounds very curated. The word landed harder than expected. The audience reacted with a low murmur. Carrie's smile faded just a touch, though her voice remained steady. She said nothing about her career had been curated for comfort. She reminded the table that she'd built her success through relentless work, criticism, and scrutiny, often in environments where she felt like an outsider. Joy leaned back, crossing her arms. But you're still benefiting from not taking a stand. Carrie's gaze sharpened, though she kept her tone calm. She said taking a stand didn't always look like public declarations. Sometimes it looked like how you treated people, how you raised your children, and how you conducted yourself when no one was watching. The audience applauded briefly before settling again. Joy interrupted, dismissing the applause with a wave of her hand. That sounds like a way to avoid hard questions. Carrie's shoulders squared slightly. I'm answering them, she said. Just not the way you want. The tension at the table grew noticeable now. Even the other hosts shifted in their seats. Whoopi glanced between Carrie and Joy, sensing the conversation tightening. Carrie continued, explaining that she had learned over the years that not every voice needed to be loud to be meaningful. Her voice, she said, was strongest when it was honest, not reactive. Joy shook her head. Honest or protected? The audience gasped softly. Carrie paused, clearly registering the implication. When she spoke again, her tone was firmer, though still controlled. She said protecting her values didn't mean hiding them, and she resented the idea that boundaries equaled cowardice. Joy responded bluntly, suggesting that boundaries were convenient when they aligned with profit. The words cut through the studio, drawing an audible reaction. Carrie's jaw tightened. She leaned forward slightly now, meeting Joy's gaze directly. I've never made a decision based on profit alone, Carrie said. And I don't appreciate being reduced to that. Joy shrugged. That's how it comes across. The warmth from earlier was gone completely. Carrie's expression shifted from gracious to resolute. She said she had come on the show to talk about music, growth, and creativity, not to defend her character. She added that she respected differing opinions, but respect had to go both ways. Joy responded that public figures didn't get to control how they were perceived. Carrie nodded once. True, she said, "but I do get to decide how I'm spoken to." A ripple of applause broke out, quickly hushed by the mounting tension. Whoopi opened her mouth as if to redirect the discussion, but Joy continued, questioning whether Carrie's approach amounted to disengagement at a time when voices mattered most. Carrie sat quietly for a moment after her last words, the studio suddenly feeling much smaller than it had minutes earlier. The bright lights seemed harsher now, the air heavier, as if every unspoken thought had settled between her and Joy Behar. She kept her hands folded neatly in front of her, posture straight, but the calm on her face was no longer effortless, it was held in place by willpower. Joy leaned back in her chair, unimpressed. "Discernment is a convenient word," she said flatly. "It lets people off the hook." Carrie looked directly at her, her voice low but steady. "No," she said, "it keeps people honest with themselves." Joy scoffed. "Honest, or insulated?" A wave of murmurs rolled through the audience. Carrie took a slow breath, clearly weighing whether to respond again. When she did, her voice carried more emotion than before, though it never rose. "You're assuming that if someone doesn't speak the way you expect, they must be hiding something," she said. "That's not accountability. That's projection." The audience reacted sharply, some applause, some gasps. Joy's eyes narrowed. "I'm assuming that people with power should use it." "And I am," Carrie replied. "Just not in the way you've decided is acceptable." Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward, her hands raised slightly. "All right, let's slow this down." But Joy cut in. "I'm tired of celebrities pretending neutrality is noble." Carrie's composure finally cracked, not into anger, but into visible hurt. "I'm tired of being told who I'm supposed to be to earn respect," she said. "I didn't come here to be lectured about my character." Joy shrugged. "Live television invites real talk." Carrie nodded once. "Then let's be real. What you're doing doesn't feel like conversation. It feels like contempt." The studio went quiet. Even Joy seemed momentarily taken aback by the directness. Carrie continued, her voice firmer now. "You don't know my faith. You don't know my values. You don't know the private choices I make every day that reflect them. And I'm not going to perform them for approval." Joy crossed her arms. "No one asked you to perform." "That's exactly what you're asking," Carrie said. "You just don't want to call it that." The tension was unmistakable now, thick enough that even the crew at the edges of the set seemed frozen. Whoopi glanced toward the producers, then back to Carrie. "Carrie, we respect you being here. I respect this show," Carrie interrupted gently, turning toward Whoopi. "But respect has limits." Joy leaned forward again. "So you're walking away from tough questions?" Carrie shook her head slowly. "I'm walking away from a setup." The audience gasped. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but Carrie pushed her chair back and stood. The sound of the chair legs scraping against the floor echoed sharply through the studio, louder than it should have been. Every eye locked onto her. "I've answered your questions," Carrie said, standing tall. "What I won't do is sit here and let my integrity be questioned because it doesn't fit a narrative." Joy scoffed. "That's convenient." Carrie's voice trembled just slightly, not from fear, but from restraint. "What's convenient is thinking everyone owes you an explanation." She reached up calmly and unclipped her microphone, placing it carefully on the table in front of her. The small click rang through the silence like punctuation at the end of a sentence. "Carrie, wait," Whoopi said, standing now. "Let's take a breath." Carrie offered her a respectful nod. "I appreciate that," she said. "But I need to leave before this turns into something uglier." Joy shook her head. "Running doesn't make you right." Carrie met her gaze one last time. "Neither does bullying," she said quietly. The audience erupted, some applauding loudly, others stunned into silence. Carrie turned toward the crowd, offering a brief, grateful smile. "Thank you," she said softly. She walked off the set with measured steps, shoulders squared, refusing to rush even as the cameras followed her for a few seconds longer than usual. Then the feed cut back to the table. For several seconds, no one spoke. Joy looked visibly shaken, her mouth set in a tight line. Sunny Hostin glanced down at her notes, then back up, unsure where to look. Whoopi exhaled slowly and turned toward the camera. "We're going to take a break," she said, her voice calm but heavy. As the screen faded to commercial, the studio erupted into controlled chaos. Producers rushed in, whispering urgently. Audience members leaned toward one another, replaying the confrontation in hushed tones. Some nodded in approval, others shook their heads, conflicted. Backstage, Carrie moved briskly down the hallway, the adrenaline finally catching up with her. A staff member approached with concern, asking if she was okay, offering water. Carrie nodded politely but declined, pausing for a moment to collect herself. I didn't want it to end like that, she said quietly. But I wasn't going to stay. Inside the studio, when the show returned from break, the mood was subdued. Joy spoke less, her usual sharp humor dulled by the weight of what had just happened. Whoopi guided the conversation carefully, clearly aware that the moment had already escaped the confines of the studio.